Kill. That's right. That's right.
I'm sitting on the right wing today.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Public comments.
Carol, getting over you.
So take your time. We got a whole hour.
It takes a second. Done? I could do it without it, but I would like
Yeah, go ahead.
to. I'd like to see it work.
It was on work.
Hello?
Hello.
It's on, it's on. All right, sir.
Right.
Test. Can you hear it over it now?
Nope.
Yeah, great.
They're saying no, you're saying try again.
No, very good.
Nothing coming out of screw now. Hello? Nothing coming out of there. Try it again. I talk loud.
Semaphore.
Well, here, you hold this one at a time. Well, I can get in front of
The
this.
assistant Mike Holder. This
At any rate, I have some comments to make regarding the article, and I apologize for not being here yesterday. I had two things that I had an opportunity to do yesterday, and one of them was attend this board meeting, and the other was get a root canal. And I chose the root canal because it seemed like it'd be more fun. But microphone. Very good. Can you hear me now? With the articles, the only point I want to make about the articles is related to the issue of the board and the bylaws. There seems to be, from what I've heard, at any rate, a consensus on the board. And I did talk to one board member, Dave Stevens. I called him to ask him because he was making the motion today. And he's of the opinion, and I assume most, if not all, the board members are, that by passing this, or even prior to passing this, that the bylaws, with reference to the membership amending the bylaws by referendum, obviates any and all board ability to change the bylaws under the Articles of Incorporation. In other words, even before you make this change today, you're talking about making it, and definitely afterwards, the opinion seems to be that will remove any ability of the board of directors to change the bylaws of the association. I don't think that's correct. If you examine the bylaws, I think this is the operative item in the bylaws that gets to my point. In section 1.0, hierarchy of governing documents. Under Maryland law, the declaration of restrictions take precedence over the charter and the bylaws. I think we all agree that's in our bylaws. Next sentence. The charter takes precedence over the bylaws. I hope we agree on that. It's in our bylaws. Third sentence. In case of conflict, the document having the higher precedence controls. In case of conflict, the document having the higher precedence controls. The Articles of Incorporation have a higher precedence than the bylaws. So how could any change in the bylaws impact anything that's in the articles? Because the articles have a higher precedence. Now, this board may elect to change the Articles of Incorporation to remove the sentence or whatever was in there in the old one about changing the bylaws. The board's right to change the bylaws. I believe the terminology in the articles, in the old articles, says something to the effect that the board of directors, and to the extent and the membership to the extent allowed in the bylaws may change the bylaws. Now, you can eliminate today that terminology. However, you are not eliminating in perpetuity, in any sense of the word, the board's ability to later change the articles of incorporation and allow the board to change the bylaws. And interestingly, only the board of directors can change the articles of incorporation, not the membership. So, this board could vote today to remove all reference to the board changing the bylaws. Next week, you might change your mind. The next board might change its mind. 5 years from now, some board might change its mind and vote to change the articles of incorporation to allow the board to change the bylaws. Beyond that, and I'm not a lawyer, but beyond that, I don't know what's in Maryland law in terms of the responsibility and authority of a board of directors in this instance. I don't know, for example, whether Maryland law says that the board of directors of an organization like OPA has this authority to change the bylaws under Maryland law. I don't know that. What I do know is that the articles of incorporation are the higher document. They supersede the bylaws, and only the board of directors can change the articles of incorporation, not the membership. Now, one interesting thing might be, and I don't know the legalities of all this, a board could, for example, put in the articles that only the membership can change the articles. Whether that would be legal or not, I don't know. Point is, there's a lot of questions here. Now let's assume, for example, some enterprising member, using his own money or somebody else's money, decides to go for bylaws changes. $2,000 or $3,000, you can mail out a number of bylaw changes to the membership. All you need back is 840 or whatever it takes to send it to referendum. Think about this. If those bylaw changes were carefully crafted in such a way that a majority of the membership would enthusiastically support the changes, no telling what we might end up with. For example, let's suppose a bylaws change was proposed to limit the general manager's salary to $75,000 and passed. What would the board do? Suppose a bylaws change was proposed and passed by the membership to limit reserve amounts to no more than $1 million and passed. What would this board of directors do? What would any board of directors do? I don't know. I guess my point in all this is, I think this is an issue that should be clarified for the membership. Because right now, if you just pass this and it goes out, those who read about it, those who think about it, are going to say to themselves, oh, gee whiz, the board can no longer ever change the bylaws. I'm not sure that's the case. And I've seen no definitive evidence saying that any board can't change the articles of incorporation, essentially whatever they want within Maryland law, and it is the presiding document.
You know,
So I just hope you would all consider that when you...
we actually had, if you're done, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, we actually had a discussion about this the other day at the meeting, which took precedence, which didn't. The net is this board, I believe, is going to pass a motion, I think we are, haven't voted yet, to take that part out of the charter because it's not our intent to believe that the board of directors should be allowed to change the bylaws on a 4-3 vote at any moment. It ought to be guided by the bylaws. And there are two readings of the intent of the law versus the wording of the language. When you first create a charter to create an organization, you naturally put into a charter the right for the organization and the board of directors to create bylaws. There are very, very many people, me being one, who believe once you've exercised that right in a charter to create the bylaws, then we're doing the right thing in removing that from the charter because we don't need that part anymore because the bylaws exist. Yes, you are absolutely correct. If a board 3 years from now decided to come back and redo the charter and put all that back in there again, the law allows it. But there's a safety net, there always is one. It's the members of the organization can always stand up and undo
That's your
anything.
belief. I don't believe Dave Stevens believes that. I don't know what anybody else believes.
The reality is,
You're in essence agreeing with me that in a few years or whatever, next week or whatever, that you could put it back into the articles. Dave does not agree with
I
that.
agree that anything can happen, Joe.
Right.
Although I do not believe that. I think that would be challenged. It's a hypothetical.
I think it would be too.
But I think it would be challenged, and I think it would not stand up in a court. My unprofessional, non-attorney position or a belief in it. And I believe, I kind of fall back on logic. And you and I agreed on the phone at the end about some of the hypothetical things that could happen. If the board or any board on a 4-3 vote could at any time simply change the charter or change the bylaws rather. And, there's an infinite number of ways that could change the bylaws.
I understand that, Dave, but courts don't deal in logic.
Okay,
But
you made your point, I got it.
let me make one last remark regarding this whole issue. I have on videotape from several years ago, Joe Moore at a board of directors meeting when this issue was brought up. Now, Joe may have changed his mind, but at that time, the issue was, can the board change the bylaws, even if we take it out of the articles? And his response was, yes. But it would not be politically expedient. But the issue is not political expediency. The issue here, I think, for this board should be what's legal and what isn't. And I don't think you have a good, solid answer yet as to whether or not a future board or this board could put back in the board's ability to do the bylaws. If I were on this board, I'd want a definitive answer to that question because it's a serious question.
Right now, we're taking the action of many updates on this, and one of which is to take out of the charter
That particular sentence.
the language that allows us to do that. And that
I
allows the
understand that.
bylaws, which is a step in the right direction.
It doesn't answer what a future board might be able to do.
And I can't control what a future.
I
No, you
believe,
can't-
I
you can't.
believe that might be answered by the Court of Appeals, the Maryland
Yeah.
Court of Appeals.
Okay.
I'm glad you all are up to speed on this. I can't find that paragraph you've taken out of it, the old,
That's because we took it out.
I'm looking at the old, where was it?
It's either 7 or 8. I just saw it again yesterday. Anyway, any other comments from the public? Okay,
I'd like to respond.
sure.
Since we have till 45 minutes or so.
Who's in a month though?
Marty, what you're looking for is the page that has the directors' names and then read the next 2 or 3 lines down that. And you'll see where it says the board shall or can, whatever it says, adopt bylaws and the membership to the extent the membership can also amend the bylaws to the extent indicated in the bylaw, but that's a reasonable approximation of what I'm raising.
Bob's got it with him, he'll show you.
Okay, I want to,
Go ahead.
I didn't write down everything Joe said, and I'll probably miss a few things, and I'll try to keep it short. And it's unfortunate Joe wasn't at the working meeting Monday where this was discussed and could have been discussed in greater detail based on his comments. Let's go back to
Thank you.
the Maryland Code, so the Corporations and Associations article of the code. And I don't have with me that reference information. I did have it on.
It's the annotated code of Maryland, paragraph 2-103, subparagraph 15, which allows a corporation to adopt, alter, and repeal bylaws not inconsistent with law or its charter for the regulation and management of its affairs.
Okay, well,
That's Maryland law.
that's right. And it's a fine Maryland Code provision, but that's not the one I'm going to reference. Again, I don't have the information with me and can't tell you what the number is, but there is a specific provision in there that states subsequent to the organizing meeting, original organizing meeting of this corporation, the board can retain authority to adopt, amend, etc., the bylaws. However, it goes on in words that I feel are clear, that the legislative intent is that the membership or stockholders of a corporation, and the definition of stockholders includes members of non-stock corporations, of which Ocean Pines is such a corporation. There's clear, in my opinion, and I'm not Joe Moore, okay? I'm giving you my personal opinion, that there's a clear legislative intent that the membership retained authority over the bylaws. That's point number one. And I'll leave it to anybody who wants to look all that up. I can help you if you want me to. Number two, in 1982 is when the current wording of the charter came in. Prior to that, it's left out the wording that includes the membership altering or amending, whatever words are said there, the bylaws. Up until then, it only said the board. 1982 and on, it has the current wording including the membership amending the bylaws. In 2000, the bylaws were in fact amended through petition that gave membership the opportunity or the authority in the bylaws to petition a change in the bylaws. So that provision has been there since 2000. Now in 2008 is when the current wording was added or amended, in which the board can propose and the membership can submit a petition to amend, but neither party, membership or board, can effect a change in the bylaws without a membership referendum. That's been the pattern, the trail of the issue regarding the amending of the bylaws. Now, as far as the board going back and changing the charter, taking out the membership, or putting back the original wording about the board being the authority to amend the bylaws, there's also, which I consider, and again, I'm giving you my personal opinion, I'm not sure wrong. There is a provision that the board of directors, a director, must also have some basis in their decisions. You just can't make arbitrary decisions. I'm standing here and I forgot the actual wording that I mean to use. You have the provision regarding good faith. You also have a provision that you just simply can't make a decision. You've got to have some basis for that decision, and it's got to be some reasonable, articulatable reason for what you're doing. And if you're going to just go back and take away what's been given to the membership by a manner in which the board of directors submitted the current bylaws to the membership, my review of the history, and it's not a complete review of the history, is that when the 2008 referendum came about, the board could have passed those bylaws on its own, but it chose to submit it to referendum. And those are the kinds of things you would have to take into consideration if and when a board wanted to go back and say, well, membership, we don't trust you. We're going to take away your authority to approve in a referendum change to the bylaws. And I apologize for not being able to remember the exact. There are three steps, or not steps, but three criteria that a board member has to operate by. One is the good faith, and the other that I'm trying to remember, I can't remember the exact wording, but you just simply cannot make decisions like what's being considered as a potential by Joe Reynolds. You just can't do that gotta have some basis for making decisions at that time. That's enough for me.
Thank you.
I have not quite up to 3 o'clock, but I tried.
Okay.
Before you sit down, Jim, before you sit down, just to clarify, we've heard the word 4-3 vote. In fact, to change the charter, a supermajority is required of the board. Is that correct?
Now, the charter didn't, the draft didn't change that. The charter didn't say. Well, the old one said 2/3 majority.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
Two-thirds, that's a supermajority.
What's in the current one?
2/3 majority.
Okay.
No, nothing changed.
I mean, today you gotta have 5 votes to change it, and unless there's something that I can't remember, go see, same thing's gonna happen.
Okay,
If this
Thanks,
approved.
let's move on. I appreciate all of the speculations and the concerns, and a lot of them, there's loopholes that can be found. But bottom line is the membership always has an opportunity to stand up. I need to. Dave, motion from you.
It is moved that the board adopt the articles of amendment and third restatement of the Ocean Pines Charter as they currently appear on the association webpage under the title Council's Draft. And 2, that the newly approved charter be forwarded to Association Council with instruction to take any actions necessary to file it for records with the Maryland Department of Assessments and Taxation. The revision to the OPA charter will remove extraneous, outdated, and duplicative materials, clarify certain sections, and bring it up to date with revisions to the Maryland Code. It neither alters nor adds to existing association policy. The revision process has been conducted in accordance with the provisions contained in the existing charter. The draft was prepared during open meetings of the Bylaws and Resolutions Committee and at the direction of the board forwarded to the Association Council for his review. The draft resulting from this review was posted on the association webpage along with a notification of a special board meeting to discuss and approve. On Monday, April 22nd, the board held an open working session to discuss the revisions and to resolve any lingering questions. And I added here a note for the board, not part of the motion, but that Jim and I immediately after that meeting called Joe to see if there was anything further that was required. And he basically said, no, just the motion. However, I would recommend going forward along the minutes, the motion, and the results of the vote as well.
Mr. President, I'd like to second.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any discussion?
Did you mention the check?
Just a clarification,
yes.
if this is included in our written records, just to correct the typo on the date when we had the meeting, Monday, April 22nd, 2013. It says 10/13. Just a typo. That's all it is, okay.
That's in the discussion section.
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to request a roll call vote so that we have a specific record of
Fair enough.
our vote.
Okay,
You may have used it.
start to my left, Rick.
I agree.
Yes or no? sir?
Yes.
Sharon?
Yes.
I'm yes.
Yes?
Dan?
Marty?
Yes?
You're yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm sorry.
Terry is absent. I'm a yes. So the vote is 6 voting for, 1 being absent, and that passes the motion.
Motion's made.
What was the vote?
6.
6-0.
6 voting yes, 1 not present. Total vote 6 out of 7 for passing.
Just so everybody knows, Terry is at a funeral this afternoon. That's why she's not here. Media questions?